Today in science, you are going to work through 2 stations on our new topic, the rock cycle. Today, Wednesday, February 10th, we will explore the processes that form metamorphic, igneous, and sedimentary rocks. Today, you have 2 stations to complete. The first is watch it, and the second is read it. So let me open the watch it station. At this station, you have a video to watch. It is linked right here on the slideshow. So you want to open your slideshow that you'll be editing and answering the questions on. So right here, you can click the link. I'm going to go ahead and allow that video to play. So if one video doesn't work, then the other one will. You'll have this one.
I bet you thought rocks are just rocks, right? Nope. There are 3 major types of rocks: sedimentary, igneous, and metamorphic. But the coolest thing about rocks is that each one has the ability to change into the other kind.
Huh? How is that possible? Sedimentary, metamorphic, and igneous rocks change into each other in a process we call the rock cycle. No, not that kind of rock. This kind of rock. Yeah, that's more like it. The first type of rock we'll talk about is sedimentary. On the surface of the Earth, wind and water break down rock into tiny pieces. Those pieces might collect in a riverbed, on a floodplain, be swept into sand dunes, or collect on the ground. Over time, layers of these rock fragments build up and start to weigh down on one another. Eventually, they get fused together to form sedimentary rocks. The cool thing is that if you look closely, you can still see pieces of the original rocks or sediment that were bound together.
Let's do a demo. For our rocks, we're going to use jelly beans. Each flavor of jelly bean represents a rock or mineral that has been broken down by wind and water through a process called erosion. We put our jelly beans in this bowl and add some honey and cornstarch. They're the bonding agents to hold our pieces together, kind of like glue for rocks. A little time and pressure has turned our jelly bean pieces of sediment into a brand new rock.
So what happens if you apply both heat and pressure? It becomes a metamorphic rock. Metamorphic rock may form by friction of the Earth's shifting crust, pressure deep within the Earth, or even radioactive decay. The heat and pressure cause the rock structure to change, so it takes on a new form. Even though it's changed, you can often still see structures of its original components.
Let's take our sedimentary jelly bean rock and turn it into a metamorphic one with heat and pressure. To add pressure, we'll put this heavy pot on top. For heat, we'll stick it in the oven for about 30 minutes. After it's cooled, you can see how our jelly bean rock has formed a more solid unit. However, you can still see the individual pieces of candy, but the structure has fundamentally changed.
The third type of rock in the rock cycle is igneous. When rocks get superheated deep within the Earth, they melt and form a liquid called magma. If magma rises to the surface or moves up in the Earth's crust, it begins to cool. Igneous rocks have a uniform structure throughout, but will have different properties depending on whether they cooled on the Earth's surface or within the crust.
To turn our jelly bean metamorphic rock into an igneous rock, we're going to melt it in this pot of boiling water. When our rock is cooled, you can see how all the different pieces combine to make an igneous rock with uniform structure throughout. Pretty cool, huh?
But this is only part of the story. We showed you one path through the rock cycle, but really any rock can go from one type to another. For example, igneous rocks can turn into either metamorphic or sedimentary. And metamorphic rocks don't have to become igneous rocks. They can be broken down again and become sedimentary. Or the sedimentary rocks can get pushed deep within the Earth to form igneous. See, all of the rock types are connected, making a cycle that never ends. The end.
Okay, so once you finish the video, you're going to answer the questions on the slide. So what did the jelly beans represent in the demonstration? You will type your answer for question 1 right here on the left-hand side of the screen. Then list the 3 main types of rocks and the processes of how they are each created. Type your answer here. And explain why the rock cycle doesn't have to go in order. Type your answer here. Then when you finish that, make sure you turn it in. Next up is a read it station. At the read it station, you'll have a passage to read, and then you'll have some comprehension questions to answer over your reading. You go ahead and open that up. It's a slide as well. So everything you need is right there on the slide, and I'll read it for you. Read it, the rock cycle part 1. There are 3 main types of rocks: igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. Each of these types of rocks are formed in unique ways, and each type of rock can be changed into each of the other types of rock. Geologists call the process the rock cycle. Essentially, the rock cycle is the process that makes and recycles rocks. Most rocks on Earth began as igneous rocks. Igneous rocks are formed from magma. Magma is melted rock beneath the Earth's surface. Magma cools and solidifies into rock. When igneous rocks are exposed on the surface, time and weather break the rock down into smaller and smaller pieces. This process is called weathering and erosion. Wind and water carry the smaller pieces of igneous rocks into piles called sediment beds. Over time, the sediment beds get buried and the pieces of rock become cemented together to form a new type of rock called sedimentary rock. If a sedimentary rock gets buried deep in the earth, heat and pressure essentially bake the rock, changing it into something new. This process is called metamorphosis. And the new rock is called metamorphic rock. Metamorphosis can happen to igneous rocks as well. Read part 1, jot down notes and drawings that will help you remember the meanings of these words. You can use the sketch scribble button on the toolbar. So you're going to, when you read about the igneous rocks, the information about the igneous rocks are right here. Yes. You're going to describe right here how an igneous rock is formed. You can also draw a picture using the scribble tool. If I go up, I can click scribble and see I can draw. Okay. If you can do that if you want. Then I'm going to read about the process that forms sedimentary, and I'm going to describe it or draw it here. And then, of course, metamorphic that was in the last paragraph. Then I move to the second slide. The second slide has a little bit more reading. It says to jot down notes and drawings that will help you remember the meanings of these words. This time I'm thinking about rock cycle and compacted. In short, the rock cycle is the name for the rocks and the processes that form them. For sedimentary rocks, the processes are cementation, cemented, and compaction, packed. To form igneous rocks, the process is melting and hardening. Heat and pressure form metamorphic rocks. The rock cycle can start with any rock type and be changed into any rock type, depending on the processes that act on it. And then on the last slide, you have 3 questions to answer. You write your multiple choice answers right here on the left-hand side. That is it for science today. I hope you enjoy it.